You don't notice the routine killing you until you're already numb. That's the first thing I need to get off my chest. When people think of a breakup after 3 years, they expect an explosion. They want a cheating scandal, a massive betrayal, screaming matches that wake up the neighbors, or a hidden bank account. We didn't have any of that. What we had was worse. We had a slow, quiet evaporation of friction. For the last 6 months of our relationship, it felt like we were living in a house made of cardboard. If you moved too fast, everything would collapse. So, we both walked on eggshells. Our routine was a carbon copy every single day. Wake up at 6:30 a.m. She'd make coffee, 2 sugars for me, black for her. We'd sit at the kitchen island, staring at our phones. Not because we were angry, but because we had already said everything there was to say. Or so I thought. Have a good day at work, she'd say, kissing my cheek. It felt like a reflex. Like the way your knee jerks when the doctor hits it with that little rubber hammer. No thought behind it. Just muscle memory. I started overanalyzing everything. If she didn't text me during her lunch break, my mind would spiral. Does she even care anymore? Is she bored? Has her love for me just dried up? I mistook her exhaustion from life for a lack of affection for me. I began to keep score. Score, I initiated the last 3 hugs. Score, she didn't ask how my presentation went today. Score, the silence in the car on the way home lasted 22 minutes. I was building a case against her in my own head, acting as the prosecutor, judge, and jury. And she had no idea she was even on trial. Part 2, the final fight. It happened on a Tuesday. A stupid, unremarkable Tuesday. She had left her shoes in the middle of the hallway again. Normally, I'd just pick them up. But that night, my internal prosecutor decided this was Exhibit A. It was proof of her utter disrespect for our shared space, which meant she didn't respect me, which meant she didn't love me. The mental gymnastics of an insecure mind are genuinely terrifying. Can you put your shoes away for once? I asked. My voice had this sharp, jagged edge to it. She was sitting on the couch, laptop on her knees, typing out an email for work. She didn't look up immediately. That pissed me off even more. Yeah, sorry. Just finishing this up, she mumbled, her fingers still flying across the keyboard. No, not, yeah, sorry. It's every day. It's like you don't even care that we live here together. You just drift through this apartment like I'm a roommate who cleans up after you. The typing stopped. The silence that followed was heavy. It felt like the air pressure in the room plummeted. She slowly closed her laptop, set it on the coffee table, and finally looked at me. Her eyes weren't angry. They were just profoundly, deeply tired. Dark circles under them. Her shoulders were slumped. If I hadn't been so blinded by my own ego, I would have seen a woman who was drowning in stress. Instead, I just saw a challenge. Is this really about the shoes? She asked softly. It's about everything. I snapped, my voice rising. It's about how you don't look at me anymore. How we don't talk. How everything feels like a chore to you. I feel like I'm the only one trying to keep this pathetic excuse for a relationship alive. That was a lie. A massive, toxic lie. But when you're in an argument fueled by pride, the truth is the first thing you sacrifice. She stood up. She didn't yell. She never yelled. That was always her power move, and it drove me insane. She walked over to me, stopping just a couple of feet away. I could smell her shampoo, that vanilla and almond scent that used to make me feel safe. Now, it just felt like salt in an open wound. We are going through a hard patch, she said, her voice steady but thick with emotion. She reached out to touch my arm, but I stepped back, crossing my arms over my chest. Defensive. Armored. Her hand hovered in the air for a second before she dropped it to her side. I saw her fingers twitch, clenching into a loose fist. A subtle sign of her frustration. Everyone goes through this, she continued, looking directly into my eyes. Work is crazy for both of us right now. We're exhausted. But if we just have a little bit of patience, if we just hold on, it will get better. It always does. We can fix this. And right there, that was my exit ramp. She was giving me the bridge. She was offering a truce. But my ego wouldn't let me take it. In my twisted logic, if I accepted her explanation, it meant I was wrong. It meant my months of brooding and keeping score were invalid. I wanted her to beg. I wanted her to cry and tell me she couldn't live without me, because that was the only currency my insecurity accepted. I looked at her, my face a mask of cold indifference. Yeah, well, I'm already tired, I said. The words were short. Sharp. Designed to inflict maximum damage. I saw the exact moment something broke inside her. It was subtle. A slight widening of her eyes, a tiny tremor in her lower lip that she instantly bit down on to suppress. She didn't say another word. She just stared at me, really looked at me, as if she were seeing a stranger. I turned around, grabbed my jacket from the coat rack, and walked out the door. I slammed it behind me for dramatic effect. As I walked down the stairs of our apartment building, my heart was hammering against my ribs. But I wasn't scared. I was almost exhilarated. Because in the past, every time we had a major blowout, the script was always the same. I would storm out. I would ignore her texts for an hour. She would call me, crying, asking where I was. I would come back, play the magnanimous savior, and we'd make up. I was playing a game. I thought she was playing it too. I didn't realize she had just thrown the board out the window. Part 3, The Silent Echo. I stayed at a cheap motel that night. I kept my phone face down on the nightstand, intentionally waiting until midnight to check it. I wanted to see the missed calls. I wanted to see the wall of text messages apologizing, begging me to come home. At 12:15 a.m., I turned the phone over. Nothing. No notifications. No texts. No missed calls. Just a blank lock screen staring back at me. A small knot of unease formed in my stomach, but I pushed it down. She's just angry, I told myself. She's trying to match my energy. She'll text me in the morning when she wakes up in an empty bed. But the morning brought more of the same. 0. Days turned into a week. The silence became deafening. It was a physical presence in my life, a heavy, suffocating blanket. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart would leap into my throat, only for it to be a work email, a group chat notification, or a spam call. I started going down the rabbit hole of social media stalking. I'd check her Instagram every hour. Is she active? Did she post anything? She didn't. Her profile was a ghost town. That's when the anger kicked in. Fine, I thought. If she wants to play chicken, let's play. I'm not bowing down first. I started constructing an elaborate illusion of a man who was thriving. I went out with my friends every weekend. I took photos of drinks, of crowded bars, of me laughing at jokes I didn't even hear. I posted them to my stories, making damn sure she was on the list of viewers. And she did view them. Every single one. Within an hour of posting, her little icon would pop up at the bottom of the screen. She's watching, I'd think triumphantly. She sees what she's losing. What an absolute idiot I was. I thought her watching meant she was pining. I didn't realize she was just gathering the closure she needed to completely erase me from her life. One night, about 2 months after the breakup, the facade collapsed. I had come home from a bar, slightly drunk, feeling that hollow, dirty loneliness that only comes after spending hours pretending to have fun with people you don't really care about. I sat on the edge of my bed in my new, sterile bachelor apartment. The silence was there, waiting for me. I opened my closet and saw an old shoebox filled with Polaroids and mementos from our 3 years together. I shouldn't have opened it. But when you're drunk and lonely, you become a masochist. The first photo was from our trip to the mountains during our first anniversary. We were huddled under a single blanket, her nose completely red from the cold, both of us laughing so hard our eyes were squinted shut. I remembered that day vividly. The heater in our cabin had broken, and instead of complaining, she had laughed, made hot cocoa, and told me that as long as we had each other, we wouldn't freeze. The second photo was just a candid I took of her while she was reading a book in bed. The morning light was hitting her face just right. She looked so peaceful. So safe. And then it hit me. Like a physical blow to the solar plexus. The routine wasn't evidence that her love had decreased. The routine was the security of love. It was the comfort of knowing that the storm of the world could be raging outside, but inside our little apartment, we were a constant. She hadn't stopped trying, she had just trusted that we were strong enough to survive a quiet phase. And I had smashed it to pieces because my ego needed a constant ego boost. I started crying. Not a quiet, dignified tear down the cheek, but a ugly, racking sob that made my chest heave. I clutched that stupid Polaroid to my chest, sitting on the floor of a dark room, realizing that the void I had created wasn't going away. It was growing. Silently, steadily, consuming everything. Part 4, The Encounter. 4 months. That's how long it took for the universe to finally deliver the final, crushing blow. I was at a small, indie coffee shop on the east side of town. It wasn't our usual spot, I intentionally avoided those because the memories were too painful. I was sitting by the window, reading an article on my phone, sipping a cold brew. The bell above the door jingled. I didn't look up immediately. But then I heard a laugh. A very specific, melodic laugh that I would recognize if I were deaf, blind, and buried 6 feet under. My head snapped up. It was her. She looked beautiful. Her hair was cut a bit shorter, styled in a way I had never seen before. She was wearing a green trench coat that I remembered buying with her. But she wasn't alone. There was a man with her. He was tall, wearing a casual sweater, holding the door open for her with a gentle hand placed lightly on the small of her back. My breath caught in my throat. I felt a cold sweat break out across my neck. My instinct was to hide, to duck behind my phone, to run out the back door. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, anchored to my chair by pure, unadulterated dread. I watched them order. I watched the way he listened to her. When she spoke, he didn't look at his phone. He didn't look around the room. He looked at her mouth, then her eyes, nodding, smiling at her jokes. But what broke me, what genuinely shattered whatever was left of my soul, was her face. There was this profound, undeniable peace on her face. The heavy, exhausted look she had carried during our final months was completely gone. Her skin looked brighter. Her shoulders were relaxed. When she looked at him, she wasn't walking on eggshells. She looked safe. She had found the peace that I had denied her with my constant drama, my endless scorekeeping, and my toxic pride. They got their coffees and walked toward a table in the corner. For a split second, her eyes swept across the room. I froze, holding my breath. Her gaze passed right over me. She didn't even see me. Or if she did, I was just background noise. A face in the crowd. A chapter of a book she had already finished and shelved. I stood up, left my half-full coffee on the table, and walked out into the cold afternoon air. My legs felt like lead. I walked for hours without a destination. That was the moment the final truth settled into my bones. The realization that some people don't leave because they want to. They leave because they realize that staying means eroding who they are to satisfy someone else's unquenchable insecurity. I had expected her to chase me because she always had. I thought her love was an infinite well I could draw from without ever replenishing it. The people who love you the most aren't going to wait around forever while you play games with their hearts. Sometimes, a goodbye is final. Sometimes, you just have to live with the fact that you were the villain in a story where you could have been the hero. If anyone asks me what my biggest regret is today, I don't hesitate. It's that Tuesday night. It's those words, "I'm already tired." Update, 1 week later. I didn't think things could get any worse after seeing her at the coffee shop. I thought that was the rock bottom of my grieving process. I was wrong. There is always a basement below rock bottom. 3 days ago, I received a package in the mail. It was a manila envelope, heavily padded. No return address, just my name and new apartment number written in a neat, familiar cursive handwriting. My hand shook a little as I cut it open. Inside was a small, leather-bound journal. I opened the first page. It was her handwriting. It turned out to be a journal she had started keeping during the last 6 months of our relationship. A journal she had clearly intended to give to me at some point, or perhaps just used as a therapy tool to cope with how distant I had become. Reading it was like forcing myself to swallow broken glass. Entry from October 14th, he seemed so far away lately. I tried to hug him when he got home today, but he felt stiff. I know he's stressed about his job, so I'm trying to give him space. I just hope he knows I'm right here beside him, waiting whenever he's ready to talk. Entry from November 22nd, we sat in silence for the whole drive to dinner tonight. It scared me. I wanted to reach out and hold his hand, but I was worried I'd annoy him. He looks at me sometimes like he's angry at me for just existing. I'm doing everything I can to handle the chores and keep the apartment quiet so he can relax, but I feel like I'm failing him. I love him so much. I just want my best friend back. Page after page of her blaming herself for my withdrawal. She wasn't losing interest in me. She was terrified that I was losing interest in her. Every single score I had kept in my head was a complete inversion of reality. My silence had bred her fear, and her fear had bred the caution that I interpreted as coldness. We were two ships destroying each other in the dark, but I was the one steering the ship into the reef. But that wasn't the second twist. The real gut punch was the final entry. It was dated the morning after our final fight. The morning I spent waiting in a motel room for a text that never came. Entry from Wednesday morning, he left last night. He told me he was tired of me. He slammed the door. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't cry. I sat on the kitchen floor until the sun came up, waiting for the panic to hit me. But it didn't. Instead, I just felt this overwhelming sense of relief. I realized I've been fighting a war by myself for 6 months to save a man who wants to be a victim. I love him. I will always love the man he used to be. But I can't save someone who uses his pride as a weapon against me. Today, I'm choosing myself. I'm letting him go. I won't call. I won't text. If he wanted to be here, he would be. I sat on my sofa, staring at that final paragraph for hours. The twist wasn't that she had moved on quickly. The twist was that she hadn't given up on me after I left. She had given up on me the exact second I used her love as a game of chicken. My pride hadn't just cost me a relationship, it had systematically eroded her respect for me until my departure wasn't a tragedy to her, it was a rescue mission for her own sanity. The journal ended there. But tucked into the back cover was a small, typed note. No signature, but it didn't need one. I found this while unpacking my things at the new place. I thought about throwing it away, but I think you need to read it. Not to hurt you, but because you deserve to know the truth. I don't hate you. I forgave you a long time ago. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, and I hope you learn to trust love when it's quiet. Goodbye. And that's it. That's the end of my story. She didn't send the journal out of malice. She sent it as a final, merciful act of closure to show me exactly how I ruined my own life. So, if you're reading this, or if you're listening to this in your car or your bedroom, and you're currently playing games with someone who loves you, stop. Drop the armor. Put down your pride. If you love them, tell them. Because the moment you walk out that door thinking they'll chase you, you might just find out they're already holding the door open for you to leave.